Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A real pleasure to have you here with us in London for the film festival. Maybe we could begin with a brief introduction to Baltimore, a bit about the story and what people can expect when they watch it.
My name is Joe Lawlor. I'm one of the directors of Baltimore.
I'm Christy Molloy, the other director of Baltimore, and we both wrote it together. Yes, the writer-directors. Joe, I'm going to pass the mic back to you so you can kick us off.
The story of Baltimore is based on a true story, which is something that we have not done before. And the story concerns a woman called Rose Dugdale. And Rose was born into elite English society, a British heiress. And the film is basically concerned with charting her transformation, her radicalization from being extremely privileged and right-wing to being extremely left-wing, Marxist, a militant, and then going further again to taking up arms in the armed struggle and aligning herself to the IRA. And so the focus of the film is about an art theft, at the time the biggest art theft in the world, and to use the paintings, these 19 masterpieces, to have two Republican prisoners released from the UK to a Northern Irish prison. And so that was the reasoning behind it. But it's the structure of the film is structured like a painting, because paintings are so important in the film. It's structured like a triptych. As you see in a painting, it's got 3 panels, and we go back and forth between 3 timelines in the film. So it's quite aggressive in terms of its editing. It's quite audacious. It's not a traditional biopic, but nonetheless it's still about this singular person.
And tell us a bit about the genesis of the project. I mean, they say that it's the first time doing kind of real life story. What kind of sparked the idea, and why was this the story you wanted to tell for this film?
It began when we were working on another film, and the other film is an essay film, like a documentary in the essay film tradition called The Future Tense, which is very much a film about myself, Joe, and our teenage daughter at the time. She's now 20. And how we felt about being here in the UK post-Brexit. And it allowed us to dig into lots of things about, the history of the Irish as, emigrants, and our long, troubled, interesting history to the UK. And along the way, we came across Rose Dugdale's story, which became a really important part of the documentary, like a strong line through for us in terms of how we put the documentary together. But we became very, very interested in her because it's one of those stories that almost you couldn't make up. Like if I told you the outline of the story, you'd hardly believe it. This English heiress who then, became radicalised and joined the IRA, but not even the mainstream IRA. It was an active rogue unit and embarked on these crazy harebrained schemes to rob art and try and have these 2, Irish volunteers repatriated to Ireland. I mean, completely mad and bonkers. But a very interesting view and lens through which, for us, to look back at that time in Irish and British history. So we decided, okay, let's focus on this story more. And as we were making the documentary, we started to write the script for Baltimore. And we presented the documentary at the festival last year, in the London Film Festival last year. And a year later, we're back with Baltimore, which is kind of surprising to me. It's when you start on things, you don't know whether you'll be able to deliver. But it's been, really quite amazing for us to be able to be back a year later with Baltimore.
Tell us about your cast, in particular, working with Imogen Poots. How did you decide on her, and how did you work with her? What was she like on set?
Well, we had seen Imogen in a number of things previously to that. Of course, you're always looking at, as you're writing a script, you're always imagining who might play the various roles. Like, in our dreams, Tom von Lawlor will play Dominic. And of course, in the end, he played Dominic, and it was in our dreams because it was amazing. And so, but the difference with the part of Rose Dugdale is that she's pretty much in every scene, so every minute. And so you're trying to find somebody who's complicated, somebody who is incredibly charming, incredibly aggressive and violent and horrible, but equally somebody who is very caring about things as well. And it's a very hard, so you're not, it's both a goodie and a baddie, and you're not trying to do one thing or the other. You're trying to have somebody who can do both things at the same time. And in the moment when things are bad, you're trying to imagine the good in her, and vice versa. So that's a really hard thing for an actor to pull off. And we had seen Imogen on a number of occasions, and we thought, she's kind of perfect. If she likes the script and she wants to do it, that would be also a dream. And of course, you know, you have to go on a journey and have to go on a process, and then a Zoom call was being arranged, and in those moments it's a chance for us to talk to her and size her up, but really she's sizing us up, and so maybe she doesn't want to work with us, or for whatever set of reasons. And so, but that was an amazing conversation. But we kind of knew, and we certainly knew after the first day and the first minute when the camera turned over, she's so got this covered, and she totally understands this particular part and this role, and the spirit of this person who's doing something incredible and crazy and wild, but doing it with so much kind of charm and energy, and trying to juggle all these balls at the one time. And our main job is really just to get out of her way.
We were guided by our casting director, Emma Gunnery, who we've worked with before. And, you know, as Joe said, Tom von Lawlor was kind of in our dreams, but she always had confidence that we would be able to approach Tom, and that she felt that he would engage with the script in a serious way. And she also brought great actors to our project who we wouldn't have necessarily thought of or might not have been on our radar, like Dermot Crowley, who was such a pleasure to work with, and John Kavanagh, Andrea Irvine, Carrie Crowley. It's just a real interesting part of the process to start putting members of the team together. And we worked in a TV series in Ireland last year, and we brought two actors from that series, two younger actors, Lewis Brophy and Jack Mead, along with us into Baltimore also. And it's a very enjoyable puzzle to try and make sense of. But of course the central part was Imogen, and it kind of all flows from there. And she's great, really, really great to work with.
What was the shoot like? Were there any moments that were particularly challenging, or some highlights on the other side?
Well, the prep was challenging because on a low budget, it's hard, and you can't have everything that you want. And the one thing that you're always battling is time. Time is the big enemy. And we knew we had 25 days, so 5 weeks to shoot, which is really, really difficult and very tough in the winter. And so you're battling against light and cold. And an early decision was that we would not shoot the raid at night. It happened at night time. We changed to shooting in the daytime, so that would make it easier and a little bit more affordable. So all shoots are nuts, and they're always too stressful. And as Bergman says, you never really get time to think. You can think when you're editing, you can think when you're writing, but the shooting part is it's a bit loopy. And so what you're hoping to do is that the prep that you've done, once that's done well, which we think it was, if a little bit crazy at times, you're hoping then on day one you get everything that you need. But the actual shoot itself was a great crew and a great cast, and everybody brought their A game. And so for that reason, I think we were able to make the film that we could make.
You know, ultimately, what do you hope people take away from watching the film? And I mean, I guess when you're making a film about a real life person, there's always that balance of wanting to stay true to the person, but also, you know, you're wanting to tell a story, you're wanting to stay true to a narrative at the same time. So how did you balance those things?
there's always a way into the telling of that story, as you're right to focus on the storytelling, because there's the story, it's a big story, you have to define the bits of it that you are interested in or that you want to focus on. And we made our decisions very early on. We knew we didn't want to do a straight biopic or a bit of historical filmmaking. It was very important to us that it had a contemporary resonance. So I guess that's how we went into thinking about making the film, and so that's probably where we're at now, that we hope that people can connect some of the... We're always back where we started. Do we learn from history? I don't know if we learn from history, or we learn from history and our time, and then we go back in ourselves and we've got to learn all over again. And this was a very particular time in history, and there's parts of it that we can see playing out today, again, still all these years later. And to find those resonances and connections is something that we would hope that audiences would find, while also finding her interesting and fascinating as a character, and maybe having a bit of fun. But it's a serious story about a serious time in the history of the two countries, Ireland and England. And we're trying to say that it happened in a context that was bigger still, like lots of turbulence, lots of upheaval in the 60s, lots of political agitation, lots of passion, protest, militancy, extremism. It was all there in the mix. So Northern Ireland, the Troubles didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened on a very big canvas. And, she made her way through it in a very particular way, which is, we found her a compelling, if very contradictory, possibly very divisive character. But that doesn't mean that we should shy away from trying to tell our story and trying to do as good a job as we possibly could.
Finally, what does it mean to you to have the film here at London Film Festival?
Well, we've presented films on a number of occasions over the years in London. We love it's our hometown, along with Dublin. We've been in London for a long time. Our daughter was born here, raised here. She's a London girl, really. We'll see how it goes tonight. I've no idea. The storyline is a little bit controversial, small c, and I'm very curious to see how a UK audience reacts to a recent part of its own social history being played back, and what that I mean, we hope people find it entertaining and humorous and highly engaging and worth coming to see on the big screen, because it looks beautiful, shot in CinemaScope. But I'm very curious to know how the story resonates. I have no idea how it's going to go down.
Sure, it's going to go wonderfully. Thank you so much for your time, and really enjoyed presenting the film. Thank you so much.